Welcome back, students. Hey, a few weeks ago for these Tuesday Devos, we jumped into a series on the book of Proverbs. And so when you guys think about Proverbs, I want you just to know that Proverbs gives us the key to living the best life ever. And of course, the best life ever is living it the way God would have us live it. You know, some people will try and tell you that there is a better way to do it. There's a better way to live life. But in Proverbs, it is laid out for us the way that God would have us do that. And so that's why we are digging into Proverbs over the past few weeks and over the next few weeks and hitting some highlights. So today I want to talk about your tongue. Well, not really your tongue. I want to talk about your words. You probably didn't know this, but just in the book of Proverbs alone, the topic of our words comes up about 150 times. And so actually, get ready because we're going to talk about this today and then we're going to talk about it again next week too. And so anytime you see in Proverbs the word tongue or mouth or lips, in words, you know that the Bible's talking about your conversations with other people, whether that be like face to face, whether that be on the phone, whether that be through text message, whether that be through how you communicate over social media. Obviously, there was no TikTok back then when Proverbs was written, and so it's all of those things. It's how we communicate. Proverbs 15:2 says, "The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly." That means wise people, they make themselves known by their wise words. And foolish people, they also make themselves known by their words, which are, I love the way it's said, they're gushing folly. It's such a funny way to think about that. Another verse that we have studied in youth group is from Luke chapter 6, verse 45. And it says, "What you say flows from what is in your heart." Your words, no matter what they are, good or bad, your words flow from your heart. So when you think about your words, this is a good way to think about it. I actually want you to think about a well. I heard a pastor describe it this way one time. He said, your mouth is like the bucket that goes down into the well to get water. The water is your words, and the depth of the well is your heart. And so anytime you talk, it's as if you have dropped that bucket down into the well, and it's going to grab whatever's there, and then it's going to bring it up and pour it out. And so if the well is full of like pure spring water, that's what's going to come out. Or if the well is full of sour, rancid water, that's what's going to come out. And so what I want this week to be about is really an evaluation of your words. Today we're going to talk about negative words, and next week we'll talk about positive words. And Proverbs, if you look at it as a whole, it kind of lays out 5 different categories for words that are not exactly positive. They're negative. They're what I would call deconstructive speech. I'll run through them quickly, and so you guys will have to dig a little bit on your own to figure out exactly what kind of water is coming from your well. So the verses will also pop up on the screen. You can dig into those a little bit later. And so the first kind of talk that's in Proverbs is deceitful flattery. Deceitful flattery is when you compliment someone, but you don't really mean it. It's also when you compliment someone because you're trying to get something from them. Have you guys ever been really, really, really nice to your parents just so they'll say yes to whatever you're going to ask them for later on? I mean, surely you've never done that, right? If you're going to compliment someone, do it just to be nice, like with no other motive, just to be nice. When the Bible uses the word flattery, it's also translated in other places as the word division. And I think that's because people will eventually figure out that you're just being nice to them because you want something from them. And when they figure it out, it only causes division in your relationship. And so again, if you're gonna compliment someone, do it with one purpose, and that is to encourage them. The second kind of speech that's talked about in Proverbs is gossip and slander. And I know you guys know what gossip is. Like, we shouldn't talk negatively about another person, whether it's to their face or behind their back. I mean, if it's not uplifting to them, if it's not meant to encourage them, then man, overcome the temptation to say it. Proverbs says that those kinds of words are worthless. It actually says that the person who constantly talks that way, the person is worthless, which, whew, man, ouch. I do not want that said about me. The third kind of category of words that Proverbs talks about is arguments and angry words. I actually love the way Proverbs 29:22 puts it. It puts an angry person in the same category as a person who just says stuff to start arguments. Do you guys know anybody like that? Are you like that? Do you purposely say things just to make someone else angry? Do you purposely post things just to make someone else angry? Proverbs 29:22 says it's like stirring up water. And it's like, I imagine this like peaceful lake, like no wind to make waves, just peaceful. But then you come along and you throw negative words in there, and it's like stirring the water. It's creating arguments. And Proverbs says that is foolish. The fourth category of words that we find in Proverbs, negative words, is boasting. And boasting comes when we constantly praise ourselves. I mean, we want everybody to know how awesome we are. Proverbs 26 tells us that there is almost no hope for that kind of person. I mean, can you imagine that? Like, there's almost no hope for the person who brags and brags and brags about themselves, and that's all they can talk about. Proverbs 27:2 tells us to let other people praise you. Have you thought about that before? If you want other people to know how awesome you are, don't tell them yourself. You have to let them notice, which, and we'll talk about this next week, but that also makes the point that we should notice other people around us and encourage them as well. I mean, can you imagine a world where everyone was just walking around giving the most genuine compliments of all time? Like, that's all they did was just give genuine compliments. I mean, that would be an amazing place to live. And the fifth category of deconstructive speech that we see in Proverbs is talking too much while saying too little. Now, you might not think this is a big deal, but this can get dangerous. If you have a habit of just talking just to talk, then be careful. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking just to talk, but make sure you are choosing positive things to fill that conversation with. I mean, generally, that's not how we fill silence, right? Generally, we fill silence with negative things because that's so much easier to think about and focus on. So I wanted to challenge you here. Be careful that you don't fill silence with negative talk. And be careful you aren't choosing to fill the silence with negativity on social media too, because we can do that. Again, that's another way that we communicate. It's our words, as the Bible would talk about. My dad used to always say, it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. And so, students, I just want to challenge you this week as you get back into your routines, as you discover the new normal of your schedule. Spend some time this week thinking about these 5 categories of deconstructive negative speech: deceitful flattery, gossip and slander, arguments and angry words, boasting, and then talking too much while saying too little or saying nothing at all. I want you to pray and ask God to help you overcome this kind of speech. Ask Him to help you only choose positive, constructive words instead. Imagine going through your week, interacting with the people that you see, and only choosing positive speech. Imagine the kind of witness you would be to the world around you. Students, I hope this has been encouraging, and I hope to see you again soon.